Hey everybody, this is going to be a video pretty much about my loaches. I had somebody expressing interest earlier and I just thought I would shoot a little bit of video of them specifically, talk a little bit about them. These are my Striated Botias or Angelicus loaches, depending on where you bought them, what you want to call them. I'm not exactly sure what the difference between a Botia and a Loach is. It's sort of like the frog and toad thing. All toads are frogs, but not all frogs are toads. And the same thing with Botias. All Botias are Loaches, but not all Loaches are Botias. And I do not know what the actual difference is. But these are actual Botias. They're Striated Botias, or zebra Loaches, like I said. And they're really cool animals. They are my first Loaches that I ever got. And I learned a valuable lesson with these guys, is that Loaches do not do well when kept alone. I bought one. I was given some very bad advice by the aquarium people, salespeople at the store, of course, told me to take one home, it would be fine. And it was not. It laid there just completely lethargic. It just laid on its side and slept all day, and it was just withering away. It was just lonely. So I finally did some research. This was my early fish days, a couple years ago. And found out that was the issue. So I went ahead and I got 5 more and put a group of 6 of them in there, and within minutes my Loach that had been lying lethargic for weeks was up and swimming around and investigating his new tank mates. And as you can clearly see now, they all just swim around the tank, and they're just fantastic. I absolutely love my Loaches. Very, very curious way of swimming. Just interesting shape, interesting behavior. They've got little barbels on their face, almost like they're related to catfish, but they're not. Really intelligent fish. They investigate everything, every little nook and cranny of the tank. They tend to investigate the other fish. They sort of groom them. They swim up and root around underneath their gills and their fins, pectoral fins. And most Loaches have similar behavior. I guess I shouldn't hog it all up with my Striated Botias. This tank I actually have the I'm sorry, I called those my Angelicus Loaches a little while ago. I think those are Striated Botias in the tank we were just looking at. This is an Angelicus Loach, or an Angelicus Botia, and it also goes by the name of Kubotai Botia. So I don't know why. Sometimes I call them one, sometimes I call it the other, but that's what that is. That, of course, everybody knows is a clown loach. He'll be back. That big one there is my rainbow, or I'm sorry, Redtail Loach. I'm getting all these names confused. I have so many animals, it's getting hard to keep track of them all. This tank also has the, well, there's a good one right there. These are probably my favorite, and they are Skunk Botias, or Skunk Loaches. And they are just the most fun out of any Loach I've got. The way they move, the way they swim, they're super playful. They're really, really curious. They're almost mischievous, the way they like taunt other fish almost. It's hard to explain. I don't like to anthropomorphize too much when it comes to animals. I know you can't really put human traits and emotions and things like that on animal behavior. I don't really know exactly what I'm looking at. But it sure as hell looks like they're just playing and goofing off and having a good time in the tank. They are just fantastic. Absolutely love my little Skunk Loaches. They stay very small. They only get about 4 inches. So they're really good for anybody that's limited on space. Again, you do need more than one. I would definitely say don't get one. I would say 2 or 3 at least. And the other thing I noticed about Loaches is they don't seem to mind species. If you've got one Loach that's doing poorly because it's lonely, if you add pretty much any other kind of Loach, in my experience, they seem to get along just fine. Again, take that for what it's worth. That's my experience. But they're really cool fish. I really like them. They are usually called scaleless fish, but they're not truly a scaleless fish. They do have scales, but they're very, very small, and they are actually embedded within the skin of the fish. So they kind of have to be thought of and treated as scaleless fish. You have to be careful of any kind of medications, especially any metal based medications like copper sulfate or anything you might use for snail treatment or something like that. The upshot to that is, trust me, you put some loaches in your tank, you will never, ever, ever have to treat for snails. Ever. You can throw snails in your tank by the handful and you will not ever have to treat for snails. They devour them. So that is a little tip if you want some snail treatment in your tank and you want natural snail treatment. Get yourself a couple of loaches, 3-4 loaches in a tank. Again, you can get that little skunk. They stay fairly small. There's a few that stay small. Most of them stay under 6 or 7 inches though. The clowns for some reason are the most popular, and they are one of the larger ones. They actually get to be about a foot, although it takes a great many years for them to get that big. But they do get fairly big. So that is your little brief tutorial and look at loaches. Again, highly recommend them, but I also, a little word of warning, as I started to mention, you know, they're not a beginner fish. Don't rush right out and get them. If you just set up your first 10-gallon tank or 20-gallon tank that you bought, get some experience for a little while, know what you're doing, make sure you understand what's going on with your nitrogen cycle and how to handle issues in your tank without treating them with, you know, just immediately dumping medications and stuff in your tank, because you do need to have a little higher water quality with these guys. But other than that, they're fairly easy. They don't have any specific particular food. As you can see, those are some shrimp pellets on the bottom. They love them. Anything like crickets, worms, you know, mealworms, grub worms, anything that goes in there like that, they just absolutely love and devour. And of course, as I said, you know, mentioned, the snails are just, they absolutely love snails. So that's pretty much every day with these two now. Sorry about the glass, this was just kind of a spur of the moment video. I thought I'd sit down and just shoot some stuff on my loaches here. So there you go. Check out my 29-gallon miscellaneous tank playlist. That's what we're looking at here. That's probably going to be your most likely shot if you want to look at more videos of loaches. And then my Gourami tank also is my other tank that has loaches in it. You can check those out too. Alright everybody, thanks for watching.